Good day, everybody. In the 4 pawns attack, white plays f4 before knight f3 and wastes that extra tempo to build this huge, aggressive caveman pawn center. Here, black usually plays c5. That's the main line. Let's look at that first. And white usually plays d5, and then black strikes at the center. White plays bishop e2. Black takes on d5. White takes with the c pawn. And then black has a few choices. He can play bishop g4, which is solid. Let's explore that a little bit. Castles, rook e1, and this is quite drawish. But just to give some ideas how to play in this position. And this is a draw in 56% of the cases. But pretty interesting position. I'm surprised that this usually ends in a draw. And in this particular variation, white has scored better, but sorry about the jumping screen. I guess that's not so such a big deal. So what if black plays rook e8? That is better for white. Ooh, a knight sacrifice, a rook sacrifice. This is really tactical. And as a reward, the black king is in the center, and here we have a rook. We give up the passed pawn, a check here from rook d1, bishop d4 check, and black has an extra piece, but white hasn't lost this position. He can play queen f7 check, that might be a draw, or bishop f4, that might be a win. So, but this is pretty tactical, so can't be perhaps a very reliable line. And also b5 is mentioned in theory here, but that looks good for white also, so I don't know if that's something you should go for. Castle c4 check, king h1, knight d7, e6. Look at that pawn going, and black doesn't capture it. Instead, lets it go further, but it's probably going to get captured anyway. So, and here bishop takes f6, or h takes g4. Bishop takes f6 looks better, but again it's quite a sideline. So what the database recommends here in this dynamic line, which means d5 after c5, is to play knight d7, knight b d7 with black, just a quiet move, or knight a6, which is good in most lines of King's Indian. And yeah, those seem to be the main moves for black here, developing this knight. And of course, white can also just take on c5, which seems to be really good for white. And here queen a5, an in-between move, or taking on c5. Queen a5 looks a little bit better for black, but this is also much better for white. So as white, don't forget that you have the possibility to take that c-pawn and go for a comfortable game with a slight space advantage. Takes b3, and yeah, it's looking quite comfortable for white, I think. So those were some possibilities, and also bishop e2 is possible and really good for white, unless black plays c takes d, which is good in that case. If he plays something like bishop g4 or I don't know, e6, knight d7, then white can have a very active game. And also black can play other moves here. Knight a6 is the second most popular. It's the modern variation. Here bishop d3, e5, bishop e2, but well, let's look at them a little bit. e5. The advantage with the 4 points variation is that you don't have to be afraid of f5 from black, because you have the f4, f pawn pushed forward, so there's no attack on the king side from black. And this is good for black actually. Yeah. So here d5 is most popular, but knight takes e5 is better. So and this is winning for white. So perhaps e5 wasn't the right idea. even though it gives the best chances for black. Also c5 and bishop g4 are playable. And other 7th moves for white, or bishop d3, which is more active. And here after e5, f takes, d takes, and here knight takes e5 is not good because then d4 is hanging, so just d5 is good. And white has a comfortable game here. Knight d6, excellent square. Knight b5, exchanging that knight. And it's quite difficult to evaluate. And one more move against knight a6 is just e5. And here, if black plays something passive like knight e8, it's really bad. Or d takes e, it's also bad. So white should retreat to d7, I mean black. And now h4 looks good for white, keeping the tension. And this is a really sharp variation, not a whole lot of draws here. Is there something better? Perhaps just e4. And black is quite good here. He gave the e pawn, but or he gave it back. But white's king is not very safe, and this is difficult to crack, this king position, I suppose. So if white would have just taken on f4, then this is better for white. He develops a bishop with tempo, and yeah, he's a pawn down, but he has a powerful attack. Look at this king position. I mean, if like it's not so strong. And yeah, I think I'd rather be white here. Okay, so knight a6 is the modern variation, and a6 also looks good for black. Here bishop d3 is most common, but bishop e2 looks really good actually. If just d5, then b5, and 9 games out of 9 it's a victory for black. So remember this kind of minority attack, just cracking open the side where you have nothing to lose. You have not a king there or anything, and your opponent is not attacking on the king side yet, so you're the first one to attack, so that should be winning. What if white plays d takes c5 though? This is better for white because it relieves some tension here, because now b5 is not possible immediately, so black tries to play queen a5, white castles, and now taking the pawn, and the attack is not as strong. Yes, white's center is perhaps not so strong either, but this pawn exchange, it also weakened black's queen side, this pawn mass, so it was kind of like a exchange that favors white. And here knight g4 or bishop g4, but white has won both of those games. And this video is kind of long, but black can also just play knight d7 or bishop g4, but usually the response is bishop e2 with normal development, or bishop d3. And yes, I think it's a dangerous variation. If you can find a refutation, then please let me know, but I think I'm gonna start playing this against the King's Indian defense. Thanks for watching, take care.